University to Jobs. This podcast is for international students by former international students. In this podcast, former international students share their perspective on how they ended up getting job opportunities in the US. Any international student seeking job opportunities in the US will benefit from this. Today we are joined by Pawan Marsari, who is a product manager at Publicis Sapient. Pawan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Viraj. How are you? Thank you for asking.
Doing well. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're super excited. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to learn a lot from you.
Yeah,
So
I'm excited to be here.
we have a couple of questions on the cue card, and we'll follow that structure. So tell us about your background. Which university did you go to? What was your major, bachelor's or master's, and graduation year?
Sure. Just like Viraj, you mentioned, I'm an international student. I went to University of Wisconsin for my undergraduate degree in IT management. I graduated in December 2019, so I was not a May graduate. I took one more semester because I changed majors in between, and then so it took me a semester extra. So my graduation year is 2019 December.
Got it. December 2019. So the timing of beginning job search. When did you start searching for job opportunities?
I started my job search so I graduated in December 2019. So that means I graduated in fall 2019. So I started my search in the beginning of fall. So that's somewhere around August 2019 till December, I would say. But that's when I started.
Got
I
it.
was still in school.
So you basically started your job search the last semester?
Yes.
Got it. So looking back now, what advice would you give to yourself regarding the timing of searching for job opportunities?
I think, to be honest, last semester is pretty good if you know what you're doing. Right?
Got it.
If you know, if you've identified different methods, which method are you going to use to search for jobs? Which companies am I going into? What is the role that I want to get into? Some people are very fortunate to just continue their internship into a full-time role, but I wasn't like that. So one advice that I would give myself is, you asked me what advice I have, right?
Yeah. Regarding the timing, specifically about the timing.
Yeah, I think in terms of timings, I think I did fine. The only thing was I was overconfident. I was like, hey, my resume is going to do my work.
Yeah.
I don't need to do more than just building a kick-ass resume and then sending it in. So I think that's not enough. So you need to do more than just drafting an amazing resume, which, by the way, is not amazing. You need to revisit it a lot of times. So yeah, that's an advice I would give myself.
Got it. So talking about the approach you took when you were searching for jobs, how did you approach your job search?
Okay, so just like I mentioned in the beginning, I was like, resume is going to do the job for you.
Okay.
All I need to do is build a good resume, which kind of highlights everything that I've been. And the point of the matter is, I was very confident with what I've done in school. I was involved in a lot of different things. I started a club. I started startups, and then I was interviewed in one of the best business podcasts. Was the ambassador for Entrepreneurship Center for school. So I was kind of like, oh, I did a lot of this stuff. All I need to do is put it on paper and then start sharing it. Then I can just get interviews left and right. But the thing is, that didn't happen, right? So you always live and learn.
Yep.
And when the interviews were not taking a hit, one thing that I really pride myself is to introspect why something is not working, what needs to be changed. And out of that, I started doing a lot of cold outreach on LinkedIn, started sending messages to people and to the companies that I want to go to. And I was also pretty stuck up that I wanted to just get into McKinsey, Bain, or BCG. Mm-hmm. If it's not one of these companies, then I'm not going to go work anywhere. So I was just going to go. I learned a lot about how to get into consulting. And then I started reaching out to people from these companies. A lot of the times you don't get many hits as well. But you do get certain hits who definitely are more than happy to refer you for the companies. And then I landed a lot of interviews through referrals and through direct cold outreach.
Understood. So would you say that at the beginning you started applying to jobs online, and then when you tried to understand why you were not getting hits, you changed your approach and you went more towards the networking approach? You knew where you wanted to be, so that was clear for you. I mean, I understand a lot of times international students are not clear as to which company they want to be at or what role they want to pursue. But you
Yeah.
were clear on that you wanted to be somewhere in consulting space and you wanted to be in these three companies. So all of your energy was focused on getting some referrals or getting an interview from those three companies. So you were clear on that. I think that's a big takeaway.
Yeah,
Um,
I was fortunate to be very, very clear on what I wanted to do. Even then, even though I'm not doing this thing that I wanted to do, but at that time, I kind of had a pretty clear picture about where I wanted to work, which company specifically, and why. Why did I want there work there? Yeah, so that worked out very well for me, and also resumes didn't work, so I changed my approach.
got it. Got it. So, talking about getting interviews, actually, we have all applied to hundreds of job opportunities online. We don't really know which job or which company you want to work at, but then we narrow it down. Okay, this is the job that I want to be at. This is the company I want to be at. How do I get the interview from that company? That's a question that a lot of people might be asking. So, what did you do to get interviews from the companies you applied for?
Um, in the beginning, I sent in resumes. I was assuming I have a rock star background, so obviously I'm gonna get in, and then obviously I'm gonna get an interview for sure.
Mhm.
That didn't work out at all. So those are you have to remember that you're competing against hundreds of applications,
Yes.
and especially when you're clear on which company that you want to go for, it's always safe to assume there's someone always better than you.
Yes.
When you're sending in so many resumes, and then there's someone who has a much better strategy than you are. So resumes by itself will not work. Let me stress this out. The way I got my interviews was me being very, very strategic about where do I want to work, because I was pretty stiff on I just want a job in New York or California,
Mhm.
right? So I had to look at the locations where the job postings were, and then I had to go to LinkedIn, type in, for example, I was so adamant on getting into BCG in New York, and you also need to be careful. When was the posting? Was there a job posting that you can find on their website? And is it posted a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, right? If it's posted a month ago, then forget it. There's already someone who filled that position, so you're not going to get a call from that. So you need to be very mindful about when was that posted, where was the location where it was posted, and then I went to LinkedIn. I went specifically to the company's page, and then started looking for people who are in that location who are like 2 or 3 levels above them,
Mhm.
so that I can send a direct message to them and be like, "Hey, I saw this job posting. Do you have time to chat with me about this role? And this is my so and so background. Please let me know." So that was my cold outreach, cold networking aspect. So I used many tools even to get the emails. Sometimes LinkedIn messages, you know who they are. You have to send in a message, and then a lot of times you won't get a response, or you won't even know if they've seen your message unless you're connected with them. But the best way to always do an outreach is to emails, because you know for a fact that they'll read them. LinkedIn, they might read them, they might not read them, they might be active, might not be active, right? So I use so many tools like Snovio, Scrap.io to get their emails. It's a secret. I'm saying you can find their emails because their company emails are set in a certain standardized form. So what these email services do is they check all the possible combinations, and then they let you know if it's a verified email. You can send an email to them or not. And then I started sending them emails, introducing myself, showing some commonality between us, being like, "Hey, we're from the same alumni matter, and then I saw this job posted in this location. Would you be interested in talking to me?" Oftentimes, first email you will not get a response.
Mhm.
But I was very fortunate enough. I got a lot of responses on the first go itself. But when you follow up the second time or third time, people are usually nice to respond. Either they'll say, "Hey, I have time," or they'll even say, "Hey, I don't have time." But they will definitely respond, or they'll refer you to someone who might respond to you in a better way, right? So that's how I landed a lot of my interviews. So there was this one point I was like overwhelmed with interviews. Like I was so tired doing interviews, I just wanted to get off of it. Like, so I got over 7 interviews within a week, and all of them wanted me to do an interview in that week itself. So you had that interview burnout is a real thing. Yeah. So that's how I got my interviews. I'm sorry if I drifted away from the question.
Oh, no, absolutely no. I'm pretty sure that this was super helpful for anyone who's listening in.
Yeah, so I think this strategy is super pinpointed, and it will I guarantee you'll see results.
Yeah, it shows persistent. I think at the end of the day, instead of sparkling a resume across multiple companies, you are very deliberate about a particular company, a particular person, and you are very resilient that, all right, I need to get a response from this person, whether it's a yes or whether it's a no, at least I need to get a response so that I know that there's some ambiguity is gone. Like I know this is what I'm missing, this is what I'm not missing, and you go from there.
Yeah.
Looking back, when you think about getting the interviews, when you went through that process, looking back, what worked and what didn't work, and more specifically, what advice would you have given to yourself if you were to look back?
I mean, I think it's been pretty consistent. The thing that definitely didn't work is just sending in a resume. Like no one is going to look at your resume out of the pile that they get for one single position. One thing that really worked out is reaching out to the hiring managers directly. Sometimes on LinkedIn, they say we are hiring on the bracket. And it's a pretty good chance that he's involved with hiring process, or he or she is the hiring manager.
Yes.
So if you reach out to them personally, there is 90% chance that you've already skipped through the most difficult part of getting your resume picked, because now your resume is directly in their hands.
Yes.
It's in a pile. And then there's 95% chance that, more than 90% chance that you are going to get an interview.
Nice.
If they respond back to you.
Nice.
Right? So you have already skipped a big line. You've already skipped the most hard part. And if your profile is really as good as you think it is, even if sometimes it's not, sometimes they give you that interview to see or to gauge your performance. But it's definitely going to work out. So that's one thing that really worked out for me, with high level of efficiency in getting an interview. Right? My success rate when I reached hiring managers was more than 90%, which is why I said 90% all the time. That worked out for me. And what advice I would give is, I wish I knew this process while I was in school.
Yes.
Versus, I mean, I learned this process by doing, so it's not a bad thing that I've learned later.
Yes.
But I wish I knew this while I was in school, and I was doing it while I was in school, doing my coursework. Because I was sure if I did while I was in school, I would have graduated with a job instead of waiting a while.
Nice. So exactly. And that's the key learning that we're looking for. If you would have known that this is the way to approach getting interviews early on when you were in your second last or last semester, maybe it would have helped you even a lot more than you recognizing that, okay, this is the mistake that I'm making after you graduated, and go from there. So I'm hoping that anyone listening to this gets this point, that knowing this early on when you are in university is going to help you tremendously with your job search. Yeah. So talking about the interviews, you got the interviews, you're trying to prepare for it, you're trying to understand the company, the role a little bit better, you're trying to put your story in a perspective that's valuable to that particular position, because now you have an interview. So tell me about how you went to approach preparing for interviews, and how did you kind of figure out, all right, this is what I need to present for that particular interview with the particular company?
I mean, it's hard to guess what questions they're going to ask, but for behavioral questions, which usually people are more, I think those are the questions where people are a little less confident, because subject matter, hey, you're already experts. Like, they're going to ask you these questions, and you're coming in with the expertise that you already have. But these behavioral questions are the real stress busters for a lot of people. But there's a quick and easy way to do these behavioral questions with no stress at all. So I created a template. I kind of gathered all the questions that has the high probability of them asking me. And then I created a template, and I created 3 different answers for each questions. The thing is, once you have the 3 different answers, you automatically know as you keep practicing which one speaks the strongest about you.
Nice.
Right? And then in your mind, you know it. And then when you're in the interviews doing these behavioral questions, your mind automatically recognizes that pattern because you've been practicing these 3 questions, and you know which one makes you feel confident, because that is because usually sometimes people just bluff.
Yes.
This bluffing thing will not work properly unless you've lived. It's not a bluff when you've lived in that situation.
Yes.
So that's when you recognize that, oh, that's my strong suite because I've already did this in the past. It's not like I'm creating this on the go, right? And then you recognize that's the strongest answer, and then your brain automatically starts spitting answers then. You're just working involuntarily as you keep doing the interviews.
Exactly.
That is what was the question? I'm sorry. I think
No. It was how did you prepare for your interviews?
Yes. So I had an Excel sheet. I had all the questions for behavioral questions that they were going to ask. I had a certain level of percentages attached to what is the chance of this question being asked.
Nice.
Because you'll get that. If you do a good amount of research, you'll also get which behavioral question is thrown around a lot more than the other ones, which one has a less chance of coming up in an interview. So that was one thing. And the other one was also I practiced so many cases because mine was product management and then consulting. So there was a lot of casing interviews versus technical rounds because I was more on the product side. So I practiced a lot of casing questions from how to ace product management interviews, and I can't remember the guy's name. There's this one guy who is very, very popular. He wrote a book about how to ace product management interviews, and then the method is called circles. So those were the key abbreviations that I had to remember. And then I went to BCG websites, BCG and McKinsey websites. They have a few practice cases. I used them to practice too. And then there's so many methods that you need to remember, especially for casing, like MECE problem solving and stuff like that. So I used YouTube to learn about that stuff. I did not pay a single penny to anyone. Don't do that unless you think you need it really bad. So that was my interview prep for most of the interviews.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is you just go to their website and learn about their culture.
Absolutely, yeah. So pivoting towards Publicis Sapient, where you are right now, and focusing specifically on your role at Publicis Sapient, how did you come across that specific role of product manager at Publicis Sapient?
So this was me going through, I used LinkedIn. Again, I was pretty sure like what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to be in innovation in digital in New York or California. And then I used all those filters and I found Publicis Sapient's role. And the best part was sometimes LinkedIn posts who posts that job posting. So you know the person who posted it. And I saw that person and then I got his email, used the same approach, sent him an introductory email saying, hey, I'm so-and-so. And then I attached my resume to him. Didn't get a response. I did a follow-up and then he immediately responded to me. And then the recruiter saw the resume. He took it to the hiring manager. The hiring manager was super impressed with my resume. And then he scheduled an interview immediately that week. And then when they introduced me to the product, they said, hey, this is the product that we're building. It's something super unique and very innovative. And then they were giving me a lot of responsibility from the get-go, which is what I love. I love responsibility. I love to make that impact. That is something that I know about myself. But that's how I landed an interview with Publicis Sapient.
Got it. So you already answered the second question that was following the first question. How did you get the interview for that particular role? You basically searched for that role through LinkedIn. You knew you wanted to be in the product management space. So you came across that opportunity, reached out to the person who posted that, followed up again to get the response, and then once you got the response, your resume was forwarded to the HR, and through HR it went to the to the hiring manager, and the manager really liked your resume, your background, and that's how you got the interview for that particular role at Publicis Sapient.
Yeah, I was asked to do an interview immediately.
Awesome. So, what was the interview process like?
This was not very traditional. I did have one casing question, but it was more the hiring manager trying to decide if I was a fit for the company. Mm-hmm. Because when he was talking to me, he kind of got an idea that this person is so good, I think. Was so glad. So he didn't put me through casing interview, but then he did check my cultural fit with the company. And then was the behavioral round that you kind of will talk about. But based on that, even in the behavioral round, he asked me a lot of past experience questions because that experience is directly related to the job. And then how I solved so-and-so, blah, blah. And then I went through 3 different interview rounds with 3 different members of the team. So I was like interviewing with the senior vice president, the director, and then one of the team members after the hiring manager round. And then they all discussed, and then they were like, hey, this is the guy. And then I just went through the offer.
Awesome. So once you went through the interview process, how long after your final interview did you get an offer?
For Publicis Sapient, I got within a week. They wanted me so bad. They were like, hey, we like you, we love you. Mm-hmm. This is the offer we have. And then they gave me 2 weeks because I was also interviewing with BCG at that time. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, hey, let us know if you're interested in me, we can go forward. And then I kind of discussed with them. That's it. Just took them a week to come with an offer.
Awesome. Any other last piece of advice for anyone who is listening?
I mean, listen to this podcast. Take all things that I did mention to you because I guarantee you the resume, just cold resume, is not going to work out. And there will be a point where you'll be super frustrated, doubting yourself, thinking, hey, what did I do wrong? That I'm not even getting calls. There is no reason to doubt yourself because just like I told you, the chances of your resume being picked out of thousands of resumes they get is very slim. So it's not about you or your resume, it's just the approach. So I think they need to try to get as much information about how to efficiently run a job search because running a job search is also an art, in my opinion. And then be prepared for the interviews once you get the interviews. If you use the methods that I did mention in this call, definitely you'll get an interview and then be prepared for it.
Amazing. Well, Pavan, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. Thanks everyone for listening in. I hope this podcast was valuable. If you would like to network with other professionals or meet other international students, check out showups.live. It's showups.live.